let's start with something fun. Apparently, Tim Pool has some words to say about atheists. I didn't realize that Tim Pool was anti-atheist, really, but this is how I found out. Shows how much Tim Pool I actually subject myself to. But first, let's go ahead and get the fan art section out of the way. This first one here is apparently a Hole-chan. Let me just pull it up there. Boop. This one is from Meatball Spaghetti. Said, made with reroll. I love your content, by the way. Well, thank you, Meatball Spaghetti. I appreciate it. And then the next one is from V. No context given, but yeah, technical difficulties. Considering that this stream literally broke because I was trying to play fucking Skibidi Toilets Invasion. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. We do have plenty of technical difficulties. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, Jesus Christ. Tim Pool. We need to go ahead and take a look at this lovely, lovely tweet so we can start out today's madness. So, hi, it's me. This is also me. And we are going to go over here. I hit the wrong button. That's all that happened. This is from Ian Miles Chong, also from Tim Pool. So let's see here. Tim Pool says, atheists are trapped in lower-ordered thinking. Lower-ordered thinking. What the fuck is lower-ordered thinking? I almost said lower-ordered twinking, which has a completely different ring to it. But anyway, Ravi, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub to Stream Elements so that the emotes can actually fly around. That said, continues on saying, instead of asking questions of existence, they question history. They tend to think God equals human belief instead of thinking of physics and the universe. Tim, I'm sorry, but I'll just begin with, you're kind of an idiot here. So when I think of God, I don't think of physics and the universe. Technically, you are right, but that's because no Christian is having the conversation about God from physics and the universe. And I mean it. No Christian is having that conversation. Some Christians will pretend they're having that conversation from physics and the universe. We've seen that before with people like William Lane Craig, right? But they're not having the actual conversation from physics of the universe. What they're doing is they're having the conversation from belief, from faith, and then wrapping it in the veneer of physics and the universe to give it some shred of credibility. And then when another person who actually is involved in those scientific fields, like say Sean Carroll, gets in a debate with them, they tend to dunk on them entirely. Also, hi Cooney, how's it going? Trish says lower order thinking is just another way of saying primitive thinking. I'm actually curious. I want to go ahead and look up lower order thinking. What is this here? Lower order thinking. Break down knowledge into its component parts and determine the relationship of the components to one another and how they then relate to an overall structure or task. Make judgments based on criteria and standards using previously learned knowledge. Wait, that doesn't sound bad, though. Lower order thinking skills are fundamental mental abilities that form the basis for more complex cognitive process. These skills involve manipulating information in a straightforward way, such as retrieving information, recalling facts, definition, and experience from your memory. Wait, all that's good, though. All of that is just how human beings do the pattern recognition shit. Atheists are trapped in lower-ordered thinking. Instead of asking questions of existence, so what, does he just want us to sit there and go, why do we exist? Like, ad infinitum? Because I can give you the answer to why we exist. Your parents fucked. Like, that's it. The reason why you exist is your parents fucked. That is the reason for your existence. That is the how your existence happened. That is the why you exist. That is everything. As for, like, what purpose do you have? Your purpose is also to fuck. I'm dead serious. As human beings, our grand purpose is to make more human beings. Any other purpose is one that you are creating for yourself, and that's okay. Oftentimes, those purposes are way, way more important than the base level one. But again, the only things that matter for any living species at all is survive and procreate. That's all. That is what existence is. It is survival and procreation. Yeah, that sounds horrible, because it is. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that that's what all life is and what all life does. None of that matters at all. What matters is what we actually do and choose to do as people. But anyway, this is based on what Ian Miles Chong posted here, so I want to go ahead and see, what is this woman who is an atheist, what does she say here that caused this conversation?
3 reasons, among many, that I am an atheist.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed that most people are the religion of their parents? You'd think that if there was one super obvious religion, then everyone would have converted to that by now, but instead, most people are the religion that their parents are affiliated with.
All right, so there actually is a problem with this one. I, as an atheist, can tell you the issue with this one. This only accounts for Abrahamic faiths. This idea that, hey, if one religion were true, then all the others would be false and blah, 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 that only accounts for Abrahamics. That accounts for, like, Muslim faith, that accounts for the Jewish faith, that accounts for Christian faith. That does not, however, account for, say, several polytheistic faiths, right? Polytheism has within it built in the idea that there could be multiple variations, multiple traditions, multiple reformations of a faith, and them all be valid. So this holds true only when dealing with Christians. I don't think that's a good reason to be an atheist. This is coming from an atheist.
If there is a God, then he must be a really horrible person. It's not uncommon to hear believers say, "Oh, God saved my baby, what a miracle," even though that same God is completely ignoring all of the babies dying in extreme poverty across the world. It seems to me like God favors those who already live in affluent societies who have access to great medical care.
Okay, so this one is the problem of evil, and yeah, I'm actually okay with this. So the problem of evil is not an argument against God, it's an argument against an all-good God. Again, it only really works as an argument against the Christian God. You specifically have to have a God that is considered all-good, and also a creator deity, and also all-powerful, and also all-knowing. Like, they've got to be the tri-omni God for this to work against them. Again, this is a perfectly valid criticism of the Christian God. It, however, doesn't really work when we account for all versions of God beliefs that have God ideas that are, say, more, what's the best way to put this? Some gods being apathetic, not actually caring about those things, like that being written into their lore, or some gods who are literally built around the idea of granting strife to people solely for the purpose of growth. Not and also this God is all good, hurdy-durdy-dur, but like, no, gods who are literally chaotic neutral bitches that will give strife solely to see someone grow, right? Those kinds of God beliefs are not accounted for in this type of analysis. This seems like this is the reason why you're a non-Christian, and these are great reasons to be non-Christian, but in terms of, like, just being an atheist, these are not arguments against all types of gods.
But if you bring this up to believers, they'll say some nonsense about how God has to test some people. There's also
and again, like the God has to test some people, that criticism works when the God has to both test people and also be all good. I agree with that criticism. I don't agree when the criticism tries to extend further to other God beliefs where the God is not all good. And when you're like, well, why did your God allow ass cancer? And you're just like, well, my God didn't make it. That was some other one who was kind of a dick. My God doesn't really have a lot of control in that department, but he wants to make sure that you actually grow from it if you get it. Like, yeah. Nitros says, hey, sirs, how you going, Nitros? How's it going?
Also just no evidence that God exists. And sure, I've heard tons of personal anecdotes about miracles.
Okay, this one I actually agree with. Like, if if we want to go down the evidentiary route, then yeah, we don't have most things that would be considered good explanatory evidence that can be repeated in any like perceivable way when it comes to just about any god, really. Like, there are versions of evidence, right? Arguments are weak evidence. Within polytheistic faiths, there's a specific kind of evidence that is treated in that faith when it comes to, I forget what it's called, EPV, I think. It's a type of revelation that happens for an individual person, but I can't remember the exact word for it off the top of my head. I'm sure Ocean is going to correct me on it later on because I can't seem to remember the word for some reason. But yeah, it as far as I'm concerned, like what I would consider to be evidentiary of a god, then there's not really a whole lot out there for me to grasp on. So I do agree with this one at the very least.
Miracles and seeing things that couldn't be explained, but to me, every time I hear a story like that, there's always a more logical explanation for the phenomenon. Some say the human body is evidence that God exists, but it's riddled with design issues. We get addicted easily, our eyes are too weak, we need surgery constantly, and before modern medicine, women died in childbirth all the time.
Yeah, no, so that last one, hi again, it's me, I hit the wrong button. That last one actually does work entirely as evidence against a god, because it's not evidence against a god. It's literally looking at God and saying, well, where's the evidence of this? Like, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That one I agree with. Every other one was kind of weird, though, in terms of like reasons to be an atheist. They were specifically reasons to be a non-Christian or a non-Abrahamic faith, which is fine. I want to see what other people have said here. I hope she finds Jesus. Lazy, tired atheist talking points. I don't like the idea that, oh, these are just lazy atheist talking points. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? So if I tell you that I haven't seen any evidence of a deity, and 10 years later we have the conversation again and I point out that I still haven't seen any evidence of the deity, you can't then go, lazy atheist talking point. Like, no, that's not a lazy talking point. That's the fact that we still don't have evidence of your deity. And in terms of the problem of evil, that is a very good argument against the Christian God, because you can literally go, hey, ass cancer still exists in the world. Like, we still live in a world that has ass cancer. So we still live in a world where I've got to figure out why the fuck that exists, why that's considered a good thing. We still have childhood leukemia. Like, we still have all of that crap. All that garbage is still floating around. So the problem of evil is still perfectly valid. Typical, I mean, hey, believe what you want. We'll all find out who was right when we die. This list of reasons is childish and uneducated. It's not childish, actually. The childish thing is believing in a deity without questioning it, right? Whether you're an adult or a kid, believing in something without having a reason, or believing in something without questioning, whether it's being an atheist or being agnostic or being any flavor of theist, that is the childish thing. It is not childish to have a foundation by which your belief is stemming. This woman has a foundation from which her belief is stemming. That is entirely valid. That's not a childish thing. That is a valid thing. That takes time. That takes introspection. Something that the Webmeister here with his, we'll find out when we die who's right. Yeah, we will. Embrace the void, my guy. That's probably all that exists there. It's, God, I hate to quote Rick and Morty, but hey, when you die, there's no afterlife. Everything just goes black. Don't go any closer. Like, that's basically what we have here. Exo says, not gonna lie, if I had to, I'd rather worship someone like Loki than the Christian God. At least you're allowed to say Loki's name. Fair. I still pose the question to atheist. Do you hope you're right about what happens after this life? So, look, I don't hope I'm right, personally. Okay? I want there to be an afterlife. Specifically, here's my ideal, right? My ideal is that when you die, you get to do-over. You die and you get reincarnated as yourself with all of the lived experience of the last go-over, so you can try again with all of that knowledge. Now, you wouldn't be able to use it to manipulate things like the stock market or to get, you know, a fuck ton more money by investing or buying weird cryptocurrencies. None of that. No, I wouldn't want any of that. What I would want is that any experiences that you gained, the actual, like, broad strokes of them that you learned from a past life, those are the things that I would want you to take into a do-over, right? Like a new game plus almost, with none of the actual stats that you gained there, right? That's what I would want. Ideally, in my world, that's what I would hope would happen. Now, I know that's not going to be what happens, okay? I'm fairly certain that what's going to happen is I just die and there's nothing there. That's not what I hope. It's okay for me to hope something different happens than what I am fairly certain will happen. That isn't a good question for an atheist, I don't think, because I don't think most atheists are going to care. Like, that doesn't give a convincing bit of evidence for any atheist, right? As a religious person, I believe that the concept of God, structure, religion, enabled an ordered society that can prosper. Without such foundations, anarchy would reign. Catholicism has commandments. Buddhism has precepts. Those are the true contributions of religion. Yeah, in a world where we didn't have governments with laws, absolutely. But we do live in a world with governments and laws, so no? Like, we get to have an ordered society because we have expectations for society. From those expectations, we make laws. Like, okay.
3 reasons among many.
Anything from the Tim Pool crowd? Let's see here. Your take overlooks that atheists do ask questions about existence, just through the lens of grounded science and evidence rather than theology. Understanding the universe and our place in it doesn't require a belief in a deity. Tim Pool responds by saying, I can't repost the same thing 800 times. You're confusing human belief with existential questions of reality. If you can't understand that, then I can't make you capable. This sounds like the most pass the blunt bullshit ever. Tim, did you know that existential questions about reality do not matter? They matter as much as questions about belief. You're accusing everybody of misunderstanding and having a category error here, but no, that's not what's happening. Invoker says, I think only I exist. I've been trying to find the truth within myself, and I've been having these weird thoughts lately, like, is any of this real? I sort of believe solipsism is somewhat true. This life is my dream. When I go through my memories and experiences, a lot of times I knew details about everybody I just met. So, I'm going to be honest, my view on solipsism is that it is probably one of the most arrogant philosophies one can have, right? The idea that you know so much about the people around you, the idea that everything came from your head, so all of the best video games, all of the best literature, all of the best music came from your mind and your mind alone, oftentimes despite one's inability to actually produce those things outside of the experts that exist apparently within their own head. Like, I'm not a fan of solipsism. It's a very, very arrogant philosophy. Nakibri says solipsism. Solipsism is the idea that all that exists is a projection of the mind. Let's see here. Invoker says there actually is some truth to it. If you know my story, you'd be so confused. I don't think knowing your story would make it any better for me. Like, we don't have any... Okay, so look at it this way. If solipsism is true for you, then I don't exist. I can't exist. The only version of me that exists is a projection in your brain. But I have memories and feelings and emotions and everything that I would need to have in order to feel like I exist. So I'm not 100% certain that I am a projection of your brain. Adam tuned in, says, hello, Neko, your philosophy tag brought me in. I like philosophy. I've been studying it for 24 years, and I got my degree in analytical philosophy. Fair. Then, Adam, could you maybe help me with this little bit here? Tim Pool telling everybody that atheists get shit about existential reality wrong because they're confusing it with questions of human belief. I think this is just arrogant hogwash from Tim Pool. I don't believe there's actually any merit to what he's saying at all. Invoker says, it's probably why I have general compassion. I deep down know everyone is a part of me. I'd say you deep down think everybody is a part of you. I would not ascribe knowledge to that one there, personally. Robbie says, I have the disassociate thoughts that I was only being possibly a brain in the jar during one of my S-ketamine sessions. Again, it's a pass the blunt moment. It's a pass the blunt moment. Nakibri says, so really you are a brain in the jar and all your experiences are fake or solipsism? That's a layman's way of explaining it. That's a layman's way of explaining solipsism. Skeletal says, I'm an atheist or agnostic, not sure, and my reason is more of I don't care. I mean, I want to live for myself for not a being that I don't think exists at all. Skeletal, that's probably apatheist. I mean, obviously, like, the exact words that are used don't matter so much, but I think that's apatheism. Invoker says, I think solipsism, if true, would be very scary. I kind of don't want it to be completely true or completely false. Both are scary. Fair. The idea that all of us are our own windfish and we are dreaming up the isle that Link is currently running around. Says, what incarnation is apatheism? Apatheism. So, apathetic towards the idea of theism. Apatheism. That one right there. If you spell it correctly, it probably helps understand what it means. But it is the idea that your belief in a deity is based entirely on the question of whether or not you care. And most apatheists find themselves not caring about the question of God belief. That's what leads them to their position. Sam Dislikes says, this is the biggest self-own I've ever seen from you. You think atheists don't think about physics in the universe? Gods are used to explain away things we don't understand. And Tim Pool says, you can't fathom the concept of God outside human stories. Okay, cool. Then, Tim, if we can't fathom the concept of God, then mayhap we shouldn't even bother considering it. There we go. Problem solved. It's just God, meh, whatever. Yep. Let's see here. Iker Ishith says, the real horror behind solipsism is when you look further into the state of the universe. Most of it is uninhabitable and there's plenty of ways to die. In fact, it may just lead to the big conclusion that, on average, your universe is out to kill you. Yeah. If the universe was designed for anything, it was designed to make black holes. That said, that's us trapped in lower ordered thinking. So people who believe there's a guy in the sky listening and watching everything, are trapped in what? Literally proving my point. A man in the sky is lower order thinking. God, this is just Tim trying to make himself sound smart. That's all this is. It is just him trying to make himself sound smart when there's not actually anything of intellectual value being said here at all. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for giving us something to all collectively laugh about. That said, that's enough of that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I do not know what else I could say here besides thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe. Send this video to friends if you think that they care. And fuck it. That's all I got. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full-time. And with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that.